Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. I'm going to be answering a question from a viewer. I've gotten fragments of this question before, but I think this person kind of summed it all up together. And then I'll give you my thoughts and ideas as to why I do what I do or the reasoning behind my methods. They said, and I quote, "I have a question, please. When it comes to investing in real estate, I remember you mentioned that if you had $1 million, you would allocate 400,000 into buying 4 studios in Paris that would produce around 2,500 euros per month, for example. So my question is, why not invest the same 400k into an HMO, a house in multiple occupation in London?" I assume it's like one thing that has multiple occupants inside of it, and make the same 2,500 per month. Why multiple studios in Paris rather than one multiple occupancy apartment? I assume maybe like a flat share, you mean? As I assume this is kind of what you mean, like just one flat. So in or near the center of London. I assume you mean why 4 apartments as opposed to one that could have multiple people inside of it. This is what I'm kind of getting from it. A number of reasons. First, I prefer the security myself of having 4 properties over one. Just because I prefer 4 properties over one does not mean that everyone is going to prefer that the exact same way. I find a bit more security in this, not saying that it is going to happen, but should it actually take place, I prefer to have the 4 properties as opposed to the 1 property if there is a fire, if there's some type of an emergency or something really crazy ends up happening to the actual apartment. I know, of course, that there's insurance. I mentioned that before in another video and somebody was like, well, there's insurance. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But insurance usually takes months in order for you to be able to get your money back from the initial thing. I'd rather, if it happened, hope it does not, that if I have 4 properties and one of them catches fire, that I still have 3 other ones that are still producing money every single month. Should I have to then wait for the actual insurance to come through? Also, once again, I assume you're talking about a flat share or anything in general. No, here's a very simple answer. I'd rather have 4 tenants paying me money during the course of a month per month, as opposed to even just one gigantic flat worth 400k with one person or a family inside of it, or even multiple other students inside of it as well. That is just kind of a, does everyone get what I mean? Like by the actual security of having multiple places as opposed to just one place should something happen to that one place and I'm kind of screwed as I wait for the insurance to kind of kick in. But then besides that, no. 2, I've had a lot of questions of people asking me, why property here and not in London? Why in Paris? Why not London? Why in Spain? Why not in London? I think London is potentially a very great economic affair when it comes to buying property. However, I've looked into this for a long time because years ago I lived in London and I plan on actually moving to London as like a long-term solution, life kind of thing. If you have not lived inside of the United Kingdom, and you do live inside of the United Kingdom, you will know that there are council taxes. In many other places around the world, especially in Paris, there are no real council taxes. Council taxes can also be quite expensive on a month-to-month basis, especially when you also have to pay your land fees, or which are also commonly known as HOA fees, within the United States. So I'd rather also just skip out on actually having to pay council taxes, which also ties directly into something else, which is also a reason why I've stepped back from buying property in London. If I ever do buy a property in London, it's going to be simply as like a family home or a vacation home that I can go to every now and again. But council taxes for me are a very big no-no. You can look up documentaries on council taxes, and a lot of people have very big problems when it comes to council taxes because sometimes they can be a bit insane, especially if you live in a larger city like London. When it comes to Paris as well, or mainly many places, but I also look for the actual, is the word cost advantage? As far as there are many other places where you can buy property and their monthly fees or the HOA fees, the land fees, whatever word you want to use for them, for the actual upkeep for people to take out the garbage outside, etc., etc. In Paris, sometimes, especially if you have a studio apartment, it can be around like 76 euros per month. which is nothing. It's about like $85, $90 for your actual land fees. That's in comparison to the actual amount that you would pay in New York City, which is something like 800 and 900. I don't know if you've been paying attention. Little segue right here to everything that's been going on. You must have. Over the course of this year, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of people have been leaving San Francisco, have been leaving California, have been leaving New York, have been leaving it for greener pastures, wherever they actually decide to go. And when they're talking to many of these people as to why are you deciding to leave New York City, it's such an amazing place, they're like, well, the taxes are absolutely insane. And also, if you get a chance, there's a website called Zillow, Zillow. You'll find it easily. Look up New York, look up Manhattan, New York, and look at the actual like values of property, which are also completely out of control for no reason. But when you scroll down on the side, you'll actually see how much for the HOA fees. These are the homeowners association fees, and they're basically like what you have to pay per month to have the liberty of being able to own said property. The issue is sometimes they're like $900. Other places, they're like $1,500, $2,300, and it's like, why would I want to pay $2,300 when I could use that same exact money, me personally, to buy something inside of France, which is also, Paris is going to be a market that's going to be going up forever. I do not personally foresee a future where real estate in Paris is going to be like, well, we got to go down now. It's Paris. Everybody wants to go to Paris. You can't build anymore. Like with New York, you can continue building higher and higher, and there's tons of empty space everywhere. In Paris, this is not the case. Bringing it on back, yes, council taxes are a very big thing for me. This is also why I once again choose Paris over the United Kingdom. Number 3, which is probably the most important to me, and I don't know if it is for other people. Around 2012, 2013, 2014, I was looking at buying property in London. And one of the really big things that I was constantly surprised at, one of the main websites that people go to find property in the United Kingdom is called Rightmove. It is rightmove.co.uk. If, for instance, you type in Mayfair, you type in Piccadilly, you type in any other central London type place and you're looking for property, you may notice that sometimes some of the property seems undervalued is the right word for it. What ends up happening is that in the United Kingdom, they have something called leaseholds, and you can extend the leaseholds. Some of you may have had a little twitch in your ear. What actually happens is in many parts of the United Kingdom, especially within London, is that you actually don't own, it's not that you don't own the property outright, but you are essentially leasing it from the United Kingdom, and I dare even say the Queen, but I'm not sure exactly how far that goes. If you buy a property sometimes, you may see that they have a lease of 200 years, sometimes they have a lease of 99 years, which means you don't have to worry about the lease for a while. But a lot of the properties that seem undervalued, you can look for something. I once found something, it was next to Harrods, and I think it was around £300,000 for a 2-bedroom, and I was like, something seems wrong here. Lo and behold, thank goodness, I decided to read through the entire thing, and I think it had about 7 years left on its lease. So what happens is, when your lease is only a few years left, you have to pay hundreds of thousands, if not over £1 million to get that lease renewed so that you are legally able to live inside of that apartment until the end of that lease once again. You can find documentaries on it as well. There are a number of people, this was years and years ago when we were still in the clutches of the 2008-2009 crisis. In 2012, 2013, a lot of people were having a lot of trouble because they realized that the actual valuation, for instance, they realized that the valuation of the property that they had gone up dramatically in value despite the actual crashes that we had seen in 2008 and 2009. And there was one guy in particular, I believe he had inherited the place from his mother or whatever the actual situation was. But I think he was trying to sell it. He was like, I want to sell it for £2 million because I know that it's worth this much. They had it evaluated, and the rental agents were like, you can maybe get $650,000 for it. And he's like, what do you mean? It's in a great location, it's in a so-and-so. And they say, yeah, you only have 5 years left on your lease. So his options were to pay, it was about £900,000 to renew his lease to a large enough state for 99 plus years to be able to say, well, the new buyers don't have to worry about this lease, and therefore I can actually evaluate this place at an extremely high amount. But he didn't have that $900,000 to be able to put into the property. He thought that he could get millions off of it so that he could buy something else somewhere else. And that's kind of the case. I do not want to deal with a situation where my flat is under a leasehold. I don't care if it has 100 years, 200 years. I don't want to have to, that's something I don't have to really want to worry about. There are many places inside of London, especially in central London. Not a lot, that's a lie. There aren't a lot of them. You can find some of them. It's not called chain free. I think it's called like outright ownership or something like that. You can find it online as well, where there are some places that aren't on a lease, and when you buy them, you do officially own them. I like the idea of, this may just be me, buying property in Paris and knowing that it's mine. It's not on a lease. It's not owned by anyone else. If my lease on the place runs out, that I don't have to forfeit my property to someone else. That's a very big reason as to why I choose mainland Europe as opposed to the United Kingdom. And this is why I said if I do decide to buy something in the United Kingdom or within London, I'll make sure that it has no lease on it so that I actually own it and know that at some point I can pass it to my kids, and then should heaven forbid they become broke, hope not, at some point they decide to sell the place, that they know, hey, we can sell it outright as opposed to gobbling or trying to figure out how we come up with £3 million to be able to pay off the lease. Very big thing. And also just a preference. Like I said before, I lived in London many years ago. I planned on living there again. It did not end up happening. If you want the honest, not like I haven't been honest with you, but the extra honest truth, a lot of investors right now are a bit panicky and no one really knows where to put their money. There's an event happening in the United Kingdom in January. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of people really don't know what this is going to do to the actual property market. The same exact thing is happening with the value of the pound, which has also been falling next to the US dollar and also to the euro. So, I mean, there are a lot of things. I mean, I hope I answered your question. I believe I did. I think I went above and beyond answering that. Also, just have a preference for Paris. I like Paris. I think it's a really great market. I think it's a really great city. I don't see a depreciation in value within Paris happening anytime soon. You're going to hear the phrase, I watched a documentary. I watched a documentary a couple of years ago where they were showing property prices in Paris since the 1970s. And I think it was stagnant isn't the word. It rose steadily until around the 90s, and around the time that France adopted the euro, there was a huge spike. And since then, it's just been spiking up. Even since 2008, 2009, there was like a slight dip, and then it immediately started going back up. There's no space to build in Paris. There are buildings around the city that are like 500, 600 years old. You can't build on top of them. They're not going to destroy them because these are now national landmarks. And the same exact thing kind of goes for the entire city. They're building in the outer circles of Paris, which they're calling Greater Paris, and they're trying to make other districts around the entire city and numbering them and stuff like that. But the center of Paris within the, what would it be in English? Peripheric? The periphery, I guess you would say, is always going to, at least logically, continue rising in value. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I answered your question properly. If you have any other questions, please ask them. I really enjoy answering questions, and I think the channel might actually even been going in this direction. If you have any money questions, money topics, things you would like to know about, how you would like to know how I feel about something, because I have a lot of questions with people asking me things about debt and stuff like that and how I feel, don't hesitate to ask. I love answering all of these questions. I do hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.